Qualcast Nation, listen, this has been something I've been looking forward to for a long time because, as you know, we have covered a lot when it comes to women's health, specifically perimenopause and menopausal health in our women. And today we have a change maker here. Angela Johnson, CEO of SanoLiving. And the reason I'm excited is because she's walking the talk, folks. She's actually changing the landscape within our country. So, number one, Angela, thanks for joining us.
Glad to be here.
Oh, absolutely. So, why don't you inform us a bit on your story, because it's not conventional, like in terms of why you created a company to try and address some of these issues that have been so challenging to address?
Well, it starts with my own personal health and the fact that I happen to be a woman career-wise. I started in tech. Well, actually, my undergrad went to McMaster and did neurosciences and biosciences. Ended up in tech, not in pharma, where I thought I'd be, but I ended up in tech. And then personal situation, I grew up on a farm, so entrepreneurship was always in my bones, I think, as a farm girl.
Where's your farm?
Alberta, just like you.
Do we have this conversation already? Did I know you're an Alberta girl?
Yeah. I'm from just Didsbury Olds area, from a farm in that area.
Olds? So. Oh, do you know the Bell family?
If you ask my mother, I'm sure she would.
Oh my God, my prom date, Wendy Bell. She was from Olds, Alberta. So, and my dad was a manager of a farm safety program. So I went through all parts of Alberta. I knew I loved you for a reason. I knew it. Wow.
Yeah. So that led me to starting a company while I was in my career at IBM, and I did both of those things for a while. And then, and while I was in my career at IBM, before I started my last business, I had really rough perimenopause, and when I mean rough, but I had no clue it was perimenopause. I would lay down a towel on the bed instead of sheets, and then I would have a towel on top of me, and then I'd have another set of towels on the other side of the bed. So my husband moved out. He couldn't live with it. There was no way it would work. So he moved in a different bedroom, and I had the full bed to myself. And so halfway through the night, the towels would be soaked, and then I'd roll over and I would use the next set of towels, and then I'd wake up in the morning going, wow, that was a rough one. And then off to work I'd go. And it wasn't until probably 6 years later, I found my way to a gynecologist in Ottawa, of all places, who helped me with some other gynecological problems I was having. And then he said, by the way, you don't have to suffer with this perimenopausal symptoms. I'm like, what are you talking about, perimenopause? Like, I'm 42 years old. And he's like, no, this is real. So this was at a time when there were doctors, who just didn't know what menopause was and stayed clear of it because of, the Women's Health Institute study and the poor interpretation of it, which has been well clawed back since, but still lingers on to this day. So then I left my job at IBM, went full-fledged into my career. And I thought, I'm postmenopausal, I don't need this stuff anymore. And I quit it cold turkey. Oh, was that a bad mistake? I went full-fledged in the sweats, but then it was also the hot flashes. I had I was depressed. I'm a woman that gets up and gets stuff done. And I was like, I don't need to get up. And I would sit and play bridge on my phone all day long, like literally. And I had joint pain. I was getting sodium hyaluronate injections and cortisol injections because I thought it was that. No, when I got back on HRT, I haven't needed it since. So it just is this bringing of the ears. I had that too, it's just these randomized symptoms. And so when I got back on the HRT and I was feeling good again and I was back to myself, I was like, maybe I need to look at what's going on in the world. And I realized that in the UK 10 years ago, there were companies out there supporting women giving them a virtual digital health solution that then they would work with in-person care, because you can't do women's health entirely digitally. And I was like, well, why don't we have this in Canada? And I just said, that's it. Back I go, back to work I go. And
Let's
so
go.
in April of last year, we kicked off again.
This is amazing. And honestly, I'm sorry you had to go through all this to land here, but I think this is what's making your story and your push so powerful, because you're going full steam ahead with SanoLiving and its impact. And I, as someone that has seen it, what you were describing in terms of symptoms, I know many of our listeners are going through that. I've seen it in my own house. I've seen it with my employees at work. Having that validation, but also providing them with tools to address this
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
magical. So tell us, so you decide you're going to launch SanoLiving, and what could people expect through your company?
Well, so what I learned in my experience of my years of with the last company and the work we've done is that, and that women as a woman, what I believe, and I'm talking to others, what really you need to focus on in women's health is there's a big education element to it. But there's also coaching and mentoring and support. There is a need for navigation, knowing where do I go, who do I, what resources do I really need to optimize my health. And for women's health, especially in the menopause, perimenopause through to postmenopause, it's really important not just to have the medications, but to have your focus on your diet, focus on your sleep, your meditation and mental health, focus on exercise, so critical for osteoporosis and your pelvic health floor and your bladder control, all those things. It is a holistic thing that we need. It's not just one thing. And every woman's journey is unique. What my symptoms were are not going to be anything like another woman's symptoms. So they need this whole program that can support them. And that's what we opted to build. So you get navigation, you get coaching, mentorship, you get education, you get peer groups where you can talk to other women that are going to similar challenges. So women that might be cancer survivors, they have very different needs and different things they need to explore and discuss and share of lessons learned than a woman that's postmenopausal and still has everything intact. So each woman, is able to explore with a group of others what's working for them and share their stories, because women are community driven. We're very much, we love to talk and explore with each other and share. So we have that environment. And then they have the clinicians, whether it's a naturopathic doctor because they want to focus on supplements, or if it's an actual clinician like a nurse practitioner or a physician that they want to look at the HRT or other medications because they may have a contraindication, or they maybe need a dietitian or a physiotherapist. They can get it through us. We can support them to get all those resources.
Incredible. And one thing I want to reinforce what you said, Angela, was the concept of like personalizing the approach, the having not a cookie cutter approach to the management of perimenopause and menopausal women. Where every woman's going to have different needs and they're going to be in different stages of their journey. But it's nice that they could come to a platform where their needs can be met. And this is and it's so holistic too, Angela. Like I really appreciate what you said too about the non-pharmacological and the pharmacological options. And because we covered this a lot on the show. There's a lot of things that we should be doing that can improve the overall picture. So weight training, thinking about your protein intake, aiming for 30 grams per meal, as many people would say, managing your sleep, thinking about the alcohol consumption, like all these motherly ideas and concepts, but they can make a difference. And so I'm curious, when people jump on SanoLiving, like in terms of the process, like is there an onboarding? Do they have to fill out a a questionnaire to be able to assess where best their needs are? Like, how do they approach things for as a first time user?
So they all start with a self-guided assessment. And so it asks about your periods and your flow if you are still having a period. And that gives us some baseline metrics around what stage you might be in. And then from there, it gets into the green scale. It's a standard scale out there, which has been around for, I'm going to say 40 plus years, maybe longer. I think longer. And so it's used around the world, but it's 21 questions that it looks at your mental health. There's almost half of it's on mental health. And then it gets into the vasomotors, it gets into sexual health, but it still doesn't cover a lot of the symptoms that we've discovered over the years that is actually tied to estrogen, because we have estrogen receptors everywhere in our bodies. And so this is why we get these crazy symptoms when our estrogen depletes and we can't figure out, well, why would I have a UTI and have tinnitus, and vertigo problems? What's the link there, right? Um, so it looks at all these other symptoms that a woman might be having, and she can decide how many symptoms she wants to explore. And then from there, she's paired with a coach, mentor, who is a licensed health practitioner who is trained in menopause and has a broader scope of focusing on the lifestyle changes. And then from there, it's an exploration about, do you want a naturopathic doctor? Do you want a nurse practitioner or physician? Or do you want both? And some opt for both, right? So it's building that team that you need and then navigating out. So maybe they haven't had a mammogram or a bone density test or a pelvic floor exam, because a lot of us haven't been getting those either. So it's all of those things coupled together. And then the plan continues. And some women, we navigate back to their GP because they just kind of needed that baseline of information and where they're at. And they'll go back and have the conversation explore with their GP, or they stay with us. It's really, every woman's different what happens.
Incredible. And in terms of using some of the tools to be able to make those assessments, like you and I sat at we moderated a talk or we're part of a panel, sorry, back in the spring. And one of the things that really caught my eye was SanoLiving leveraging AI and how we could be using AI as a tool to be more efficient and to provide optimal care. So I wonder if you could speak a little bit about your experience there.
Yeah, so we have a virtual health assistant called Sano. So that's the AI assistant. And I actually was listening to some of your past podcasts, and you had Ardeel Piper on, and she mentioned how, this is, menopause is not a 15-minute consult in the clinic, right? Like there is this steep learning curve. There's this, the listening and the need to get to know the person. And so we leverage Sano for that portion. So a woman can come on and ask it any question, and it really intimate stuff because there's no judgment. It's a machine. And we find that, they can, some of the craziest questions come out of it. But so it's a great place to learn. And where we're headed, though, is that we really want to link it to our EMR and to wearables so that it can really become more of an assistant. So I envision a day, and this, I keep telling my team this, I think I say it at least once a week. I want it to be able to, if a woman's having a hot, night sweat, and let's say her ring senses that she's having this temperature gauge, and then it senses, oh, she's awake. And so then it'll ask her, Angela, I notice you're having this intensive hot flash that now you're awake. You have that meditation breathing exercise that you like so much. Would you like me to play it for you instead of me having to turn on my light, stick my phone in my face, find the meditation and breathing exercise? It's all there. And before I know it, I'm back to sleep. and
Mhm.
the whole hot flash and night sweat is finished. So this is where I want to get to, where AI it really becomes a true-fledged assistant. It's
Mhm.
got insights, it's got knowledge, and it pairs it all together, and it knows you with the personalization that's what works for you. And I know when you need it to work for you. That is a personalized assistant.
Oh my God. So we mentioned this in the intro, but Angela is doing a presentation at our Innovation Day or Lionheart Innovation Day, talking about how AI can really improve physician wellness. But in this specific example, which indirectly affects physician wellness, we'll talk about in a second. But damn straight, this is where we should be going. Like that connection with leveraging AI and all this technology to have that personalized approach and give that feedback. It's just the tech is coming. It's obviously it's things aren't always perfect at this stage, but I love the vision. I love the vision of using all the stuff that we're doing already. I mean, I don't know about you if you're an Aura person or an Apple Watch person. We're all wearing these devices. We all have our phones. It'd be nice to have that kind push or kind nudge to say you might benefit from this, and
Yep.
and and just allow yourself to be more optimized. Because I do not I don't see how this isn't coming. And I love the fact that you yourself are pushing this within your team, because I have no doubts that you're going to get there.
We're definitely going to get there, because I'm not going to stop beating my drum about it.
Absolutely. And Angela, this kind of ties honestly to the clinician wellness. So I kind of, as I mentioned before, I kind of stumbled into this area, one through seeing my wife going through her experience, but then opening up my eyes to what many of our staff are going through. And number one, for sure, this would be so beneficial to so many of our women that are going through this stage of life. But also, that whole principle of having that personalized approach and feedback using AI as a healthcare provider, to me, it would be so valuable. Like, I'm wondering if you could comment on where you see or how you see that benefiting the clinician.
Well, clinicians, they run busy practices. And unfortunately, in Canada in particular, right, our provincial health codes for billing codes don't support physicians to be able to really do the proactive care that they, I think, signed up for when they became doctors. Like, when they really wanted to become a doctor, it wasn't, I want to be able to spend 5 minutes with my patient, and then I've got another 50 waiting in the waiting room, and they're having a mental health moment or a moment that needs, an hour consultation, not 5 minutes. And unfortunately, the more AI, like, we have great tools, and we will never replace the personal nature that a doctor and a patient's relationship has. But I think we can streamline the administration, we can streamline the process of helping women get educated. Like, we're talking about menopause. So, women can come in, be self-assessed, right? So they come in with a paper that says, well, this is where I'm at. My symptoms seem to be, suggesting that it's menopause related. And now I'm equipped. I understand the language. I understand the terms. I'm more educated. That conversation that, would have taken an hour can maybe take 15 minutes, right?
Hmm.
In the billing code that we've got. And so it can also, the next layer I want to get to is clinical decision support tools. So I'm an ex-IBMer, and IBM was in AI 30 years ago. Like, with the Memorial Sloan Kettering, we were doing clinical decision support tools for breast cancer, lung cancer, right? And it was AI. You basically map the processes, you built the algorithms, and then you train it based on clinical research studies.
Mhm.
And, clinicians that are maybe not in a dedicated cancer center like Memorial Sloan Kettering, that is a full research dedicated large conglomerate mammoth of a hospital, those people, even they can't read all the research that's coming out, right, and stay current, whereas a machine can. And if you can teach it on the latest and greatest, and then it iteratively learns and improves, and you can drill into, well, wait a minute, I don't trust that answer, I'm not prescribing what you're suggesting until I find out the real source, right? That's where I want to get to with helping clinicians, equip them with having the confidence to treat menopausal women. Because unfortunately, at university, in med school, and in residence, they only got a fraction of a few hours on what menopause is, let alone how to treat it. And then we have, the fact that we've got the Women's Health Institute study that was in 2002. And, we have a mammoth press conference about how it causes cancer and blood clots. But since then, we've had multiple iterations of the Women's Health Institute report. You know what? We're clawing back those findings. We've re-looked at the data. We've been following women out of that study, and we realized, we got the interpretation all wrong. No press conferences about that. So we have clinicians still believing that it causes cancer because they just said, I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. And so what we need is tools like this to help us quickly get there and, make up for lost time, I believe.
I couldn't agree more, because the lag behind us as clinicians and physicians being more attuned with the latest and greatest data, there's always a lag, not only about the awareness, but also the change in practice. So to have that nudge, AI to be able to have that nudge to say, hey, this is an evidence-based approach that we would suggest as a decision tool, would be luscious. And I just think it's one of those things that we shouldn't be waiting for med school to catch up on, because this, honestly, from my humble experience, that's a decade away. It really is a decade away. And so, leverage the tools that we have in front of us. And I love it. Decision support, efficiency as they're seeing their clinician, because they have an educated patient that can more readily describe their symptoms and have a report on your desk. This is not only a roadmap for, to be honest with you, for perimenopause and menopause, but this is a roadmap for
every type of condition out there. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
But can you imagine, as a clinician, if you had such a tool, how you could then transfer that time towards bonding and having a human connection and conversation with your patient? Like, you really are able to get back to the grassroots of why you got into medicine in the first place, right? Having those supporting admin tools to get that all for you, right? I think it's exactly, I really believe we can't look at AI, especially in medicine, as replacing clinicians, because we are so desperate to have them. We have so few that the tools that are coming will just empower them to be so much more effective and so better.
That's a great way to put it. And I do think there's a lot of physicians that see it as a threat. And to me, it's like you said, you have more time to do the things that you got into medicine for. Like, I don't want to fill out a form ABC. I would rather hold your hand and walk you through a tough discussion, or just really get to know you better and what your fears and what your values are, and help you navigate your healthcare journey, than and then to fill out all these forms and to, like, I mean, I don't know about you, like, I hate it when I'm just having to talk about some of my health issues, and the doc is just staring at the screen, typing away or whatever. Like, You know what I mean? Yeah, I've had 9 bouts of diarrhea. Like, like it feels so impersonal. Like, I don't know. Like, I just like look at my face, okay, just for a second. But
Yeah, yeah.
but
Back
yeah,
turned to you and pounded away on the keyboard.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. No, I'm all about this. So so Angela, just to be clear for folks too, can anybody tap into SanoLiving? Do you need a referral? Like, I just want to make sure that people, because you're gonna, after this, I'm gonna say it wholeheartedly and with confidence. There's going to be an influx of people going to this website and checking this out. Our most popular episodes in the last year have definitely been on this issue. So,
Oh, that's great.
absolutely. So, how do
So,
people tap in?
can anybody use it? So,
Yeah.
yes. So, yes, anybody can come to us. We were initially just focused on business to business, where, I was really about every woman should have access to something like this in their workplace benefits. Today, 50% of employees, are women, but we have benefits that are really male, generic, but we have unique health needs and we need unique health solutions for us, and that we don't need accommodations at work. What we want are just solutions that we can go get access to the care we need so we can go on to live the lives we designed, which includes at our peak earning years being working at our best so that we can bank as much for our retirements just like anybody else. And so what we did recently, though, is we opened it up to the public as well. So just because you don't have it in your benefits of work yet, you can get access to us. And you can use your health spending account, your wellness account, to cover the cost of it.
Amazing. So, just to be clear, folks, you don't have to, it's no longer just B2B. You could just tap into SanoLiving and tap into the excellent service and teams and navigation and tools and education that Angela and her team are providing. And I gotta say, there's nothing like this in this country. This is why I was hyped behind this, guys. We
Yeah,
are
and we're in every province and in both French and English. So if it doesn't matter where you are, you have access to it. And the thing to find it is it's called sanomidlife.com. That's all you got to type in is SANO and then mid and then life.com and you'll find us.
listen. I like there is in this country nothing like this. And this is why on this show we bring change makers. We're talking about boogie changing the landscape of healthcare within our country. This is what Angela and her crew are doing, guys. So check out the website. Get behind. Pass this along to any friend, family member that you think will be experiencing perimenopause or menopause, and let's support each other. And even the guys, I'm telling you, you will be so grateful.
This is true.
I won't lie. You'll be so grateful when Mama Bear is feeling better. And this it's a total game changer. Anything else we've left out, Angela? Anywhere? Anything else you want to pump up?
I think one of the things I see a lot on social media, and maybe we can go there for a minute, is, there's the feedback about, well, why is menopause having such a moment? Like, women have been having menopause for the last, since inception. So what's the big deal now? Like, are women just, becoming whiny, complaining things, or is there something different? And I think what is important to recognize is that, up until 20 years ago, women were able to access medications and go to their doctor and get access to care. It was very prominent. They didn't talk about it, but they could go to the doctor and get access to care. More than half the population of women were on HRT. In some countries, 80%. But that Women's Health Institute study put the fear of God into everyone when the press conference happened. And, so we've had 2 decades of women that haven't had access to such care. And that's what's happened, is that, and we're in the workplace, and we also have social media, and we're able to communicate more quickly, more timely. And so women are sharing their stories about how they're being left behind and dismissed, and they're saying, but why do I feel like this, and my mother didn't? And this is where we're finally having a moment, and we're talking about trying to claw back to 20 years of lost opportunity for a lot of women. And I feel terrible for those women that, they
Mm.
really suffered in silence for a long time. So yeah, I'd like to make sure we talk about that.
Well, like, let me just throw down for a second. Why the hell is it a problem for people to see a movement develop, whatever you want to call it, for when there's been injustice and people are feeling there's a movement so people could be more functional and feeling better. There's women that were put on antidepressants. There are women that were retiring early from their profession because of their symptoms. Like, I'll give examples in my world. In the intensive care unit, you would have and especially when we were in a time of crisis, we're better now in terms of HR. You have these women that are super knowledgeable, have this experience, and they're out of your workforce when a bunch of youth are coming in because of their symptoms. Like, this is not justice. This is not right. This is not good for anybody,
Yeah,
period. So,
totally.
you know what I mean? So if you want to have a movement, I'm saying own it. Whoever's whining about this, I don't know what you're whining about. Like, there's nothing to whine about. Like, people feeling better and getting some attention because of the lack of awareness. Like, it's, to me, there's still, like, even I still talk to many coworkers now, and they're still behind the times. I just got a message the other day saying, like, oh, aren't I going to get cancer if I start HRT? Just like the old WHI kind of movement, press conference movement. And so, like, not to get too getting on a whatever the term is, soapbox or whatever, but scream from the fences. This to me is a stupid argument. If people are whining about this, like, keep shining, Angela and crew and social media, keep shining.
Absolutely. Yeah. I do believe you're absolutely right in that, women are leaving the workforce unnecessarily because they're just not getting access to the care. And that was exactly what, was driven behind my approach, was that I want to get into workplace benefits so women can get the care they need. But, 1 in 10 are, and this is consistent in, third world countries that have been doing assessments, 1 in 10 leave the workforce due to their menopausal symptoms. And
Mm.
so, and then there's 75% that just have daily disruptive symptoms. And so that, they're not functioning at their best. And the last thing they want is, an accommodation, and said, well, we've got a package for you to go on disability leave. That isn't what they want. They just want to feel better so that they can forge on with the career that they had designed for themselves. Because this is, our prime time to earn our dollars too. And we have career aspirations. We want to, part of being fulfilled as a human is contributing and being part of a greater event. And to be fully fulfilled, that means work for a lot of women, right? And so, yeah, it's about time that we fix it.
Yeah, purpose. This is a lot of the people that are working in our environment. This is their purpose, to serve and to be present for that, and to teach and to provide the next generation with the tools to be able to do their best work. And so, yes, absolutely, we should be addressing this full on. And I got to say, Angela, you've been a champ. You've been a champ to not only, like I said, you walk the talk the walk. Sorry, I mix my metaphors all the time. Run the marathon while talking. Uh, but it's just nice to see not not only the advocacy, but it's it's nice to see a company provide tools to be able to fix the problem. And you're not seeing much of this in our country. And this is why I think, you know, we're about 5 years deep in this in this podcast, folks. And I don't know if you've heard me pump up someone's tires like this, but it really It really is something pretty spectacular what Angela is doing. So I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Well, I appreciate you having us because, the more we can get the message out, the better.
Amen. All right. Thanks again, Angela.